I think that there are many other stakeholders who bear responsibility. Very often we, the political class, just point fingers at ourselves, and we don't raise the issue of everybody's responsibility. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to spend a few minutes to speak and to call out the responsibilities of various stakeholders if this budget program will succeed and if it will translate into the economic objectives we are looking at. The Ministry of Finance have done their part. They've brought what we will consider as a sensible and pragmatic economic program. The budget makes sense. Parliament now has a responsibility to examine, to debate, and to approve this. If we shirk that responsibility, there will be consequences down the line. And we cannot blame the government if we shirk our responsibility. Mr. Speaker, the Ghana Revenue Authority, they have a responsibility. When we are done and we have passed the Appropriation Act and we have passed the revenue measures, the implementation to ensure that the revenue numbers are achieved rest with them. We were in this house when in 2017-2018 we passed the Taxation Fiscal Electronic Devices Act. Mr. Speaker, till today, implementation is a question that is in front of all of us. And so there's a responsibility on that side to implement as well what has been approved in this house. Mr. Speaker, the ministries, departments and agencies, chief directors, civil servants, ministers of state, chief executives, we also have a responsibility to ensure that the programs that have been outlined to deliver on the economic objectives are implemented on time and within budget. It's one thing to publish the program, it's another thing to make the budget allocation. But if we, who have been given the responsibility, do not ensure that these programs are executed in accordance with timelines and efficiently, not much will be achieved. Mr. Speaker, parliamentary oversight. Parliamentary oversight. We have a responsibility in this chamber that when programs are approved and funds are allocated, we hold the agencies and the heads of these agencies accountable for the implementation of these programs. If we don't, we can have a nice debate here, we can vote, we can have a nice economic policy, it won't translate to much. And so, Mr. Speaker, those responsibilities must also be borne in mind. And then finally, Mr. Speaker, very finally, citizens. The government does not have money lying down somewhere. The government raises the revenues to fund the programs. This year, 0% financing from the central bank. So, Mr. Speaker, to conclude,
Honourable Minister, your time is getting up.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Citizens have a responsibility as well. And our ability to each fulfill our obligations is what will translate into fulfillment. So, Mr. Speaker, this economic policy is sensible and pragmatic. The budget is healthy and sensible. We all have a responsibility. Let us live up to it so that we achieve the objectives. Let us avoid excessive partisanship so that we can achieve the objectives. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. It is now the turn of Honorable Isaac Adongo. Honorable, you have 20 minutes. 20 minutes. The floor is yours now.
Mr. Speaker, I sympathize with my very good friend and honorable colleague, Honorable Kojo Okonkrumah. It's a very difficult job. Mr. Speaker, it's obvious that you are as good as a budget. And if the budget that has been presented is empty, you can't force magic out of Kojo Okonkrumah. And so I sympathize with you. But Mr. Speaker, I can count about 20-23 members on the other side. And this is their budget. If they are not interested, they should tell us to stop. Why are they not here? Mr. Speaker, the minister attempted to tell the people of Ghana that we should be celebrating a projected GDP of 1 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, have you delivered 1 billion GDP? 1 trillion, yes. Have you delivered any 1 trillion GDP? It is just a promise. And if we were to follow your promises, go to Adoso Okai and ask them. Mr. Speaker, you are asking us to celebrate. Go and ask the Eurobond holders. All the sweet and juicy things you told them about how you create heaven in Ghana, and they gave you the money. Today you are telling them you can't pay. As a matter of fact, in one of those circumstances, in 2019 when they came to eat the kenke and fish, they had told the investor that Ghana will be producing 500,000 barrels of crude oil by 2020. We are in 2023. Have you even achieved 150,000 barrels? So, how for you and promises, if we follow you, where are the NAPO beneficiaries? 70,000 of them have now joined what they call the Unemployed Youth Alliance. So this 1 billion is a roof. 1 trillion, anyway, 1 trillion is a roof. But Mr. Speaker, the reality is that this 1 trillion is difficult to even understand. You said that you are going to grow your GDP from 850 billion to 1050 billion, a trillion Ghana cedis. That is about 22% growth in your GDP. Then you said that you reduce your inflation from 35 to 15%. That is a gain of about 20% improvement in real numbers. What that also means is that your GDP is influenced by output and volume and not price. And yet when you put that together, your economy should be growing in real terms close to 20% to get that number. And when we ask you, what is the real growth? You say 2.8. Why are you cooking this? Even when you are cooking the number, you are not smart enough.
Something must be wrong.
I mean, this is voodoo economics.
Something is wrong somewhere.
But Mr. Speaker, since when did we use nominal GDP to assess the performance of an economy? That was done in the medieval time, the Stone Age. That was where we didn't know quantitative economics and we couldn't calculate inflation and deflate inflation. In the 21st century, you are still calculating GDP and assessing your economic performance on the basis of nominal GDP. That must tell you that something is wrong. The economy is in trouble. But Mr. Speaker, the minister was at pains to explain that this is an improvement over a GDP of 219 billion by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Mr. Speaker, which one will you prefer? A GDP of 209 billion, where you go and buy 1 gallon of fuel or petrol for 16 cedis, and an economy of 1 trillion, when you go and buy 1 liter of 24 Ghana cedis. Which one will you prefer? Will you prefer Dr. John Mahama's economy, where you were drinking your calipo for 50 pesos, to your 1 trillion, where you will now be buying that calipo for 6 cedis? Which one will you prefer? Which one will you prefer? A 219 billion economy in which you will buy an olonka of kokunde for the poor at 112 cedis, or 1 trillion where you buy olonka of kokunde for 500 Ghana cedis. So you must understand that economy is about livelihoods. It's about real growth. And the earlier you understand that, the better. Mr. Speaker, my colleague talked about revenue, and here again, you are cooking the numbers. You said that you are going to achieve a revenue target at the end of the year of 133 billion, and that is 15.7% of your GDP. But you will grow that revenue by about 1.1% to give you 16.8% of GDP. That 1.1 is about 11 billion. Mr. Speaker, when you add 11 billion to 133 billion, you get 144 billion. So where did you pluck that 176 billion from? That 176 that you have used to calculate your expenditure, where did you get it from? So clearly, you have inflated your revenue by over 40 billion so that you can now project an expenditure of 226 billion, so you can have 40 billion cushion for reckless expenditure in an election year. That is all that you have done. But Mr. Speaker, the minister said that they have impacted Ghanaians positively, all households. Mr. Speaker, it's true that they have impacted all households. But Mr. Speaker, we all know that they have impacted.
Honorable Ranking, hold on. Let me see the chair to the right honorable speaker. So you've already spent almost 6 minutes. Yes.
Yes, Honorable Member, you may continue.
The minister told us that they have impacted every household positively. Mr. Speaker, I agree that they have impacted every household, but I disagree that it is positive. They have, as a matter of fact, impacted our household negatively. I don't get the right word to even speak. Mr. Speaker, tell the minister he impacted us negatively when he registered growth of 0.4% and therefore kept a lot of people at home. When last year, he is projecting to grow at 23%, and even next year, he is still projecting to grow at 2.8%. Mr. Speaker, where will our people make the income? Where will our people find the jobs? That is a negative impact. But Mr. Speaker, he impacted us negatively when inflation was 54%. He impacted us negatively when the depreciation of the cedi was 54%. He impacted us negatively when he introduced 32 new taxes from 2017. 32. You came and told us moving from taxation to production, not knowing you were arming yourself to come and kill us. 32 new taxes. An adjustment of all taxes, introduction of other levies, all amount to about 32 of them from 2017. That is how badly you have impacted us. But Mr. Speaker, as a result of this, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama's 4-year term, the total revenue he took from people of Ghana was just 65 billion. You have taken 344 billion from the people's pocket, and you say you have impacted them positively. Mr. Speaker, you have taken an additional amount of 279 billion from the poor people in Ghana. You still remember e-levy. They said e-levy was going to be the Akobank of the world. Now, where have you reached? Where have you reached? You said that with e-levy, you create U-Stop job. Today, U-Stop is U-Stop. Mr. Speaker, they impacted us negatively when for 3 years consecutively, they registered double-digit deficits. 15% in 2020, 12.1% in 2021, and 11.8% in 2022. That is disastrous economic management. Mr. Speaker, they impacted us negatively when they drove our debt into unsustainable levels. They impacted us negatively when all rating agencies gathered around to embarrass Ghana by rating us at triple C. As a matter of fact, in recent times, we have been rated RD. RD means that you are rated default. You can't pay. Mr. Speaker, when we are trying to find solutions to deal with the economy when they leave office, and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is proposing a 24-hour economy. I heard somebody who has disappointed the people of Ghana. Somebody who said one village, one dam, and went and dug gutters and dug house. Somebody who said one district, one factory, and built now. Somebody who said 1 million per constituency, and for 7 years, I'm still waiting for even $1 million. He says that John Mahama does not understand the 24-hour economy. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, Dr. Bawumia learned economics at O-level. Dr. Bawumia learned economics at A-level. He went to university and learned economics first degree. Did economics again at master's level and did economics at PhD. Went all the way to Zimbabwe to be a consultant to calculating the depreciation, refused that depreciation formula and used the rate of change to calculate Ghana's depreciation and got 240%. Mr. Speaker, no currency can depreciate up to 100%. If you depreciate up to 100%, it means that you have shed your entire value and you cease to be a legal tender. But when he finished, he carried that money to Malata market to go and buy onions and pepper. When he came back, before we realized he had drawn a calculator and was calculating. Mr. Speaker, this man, after almost 30 years experience in economics, this is the economy he has left us. How will he understand 24-hour economy? How will such a person understand 24-hour economy? Since abandoning the economy and his on digitalization, please, we want people who understand this matter. IMF. with a cup in hand. With a cup in hand. As for our Maguire, the economic Maguire, now was
arose on a point of relevance. Arose on a point of relevance. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, members, Chief Justice and judges of the Superior Court shall not be raised except upon the substantive motion and in any amendment, question, or to a member or remarks in a debate or on a motion dealing with any other subject matter. Any reference to the conduct of persons mentioned shall be out of order.
To cooperate. I will not allow them to bully you. That one, you will get sufficient time to your debate, please. So let's respect each other, let's listen to each other. And at the end of the day, if there is any issue in terms of decency of language and the rest, I will personally intervene and object to it. Please, Honorable.
where we are. So it must take more poison and destroy us to be able to be a Bank of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, you impacted us negatively when you collapsed 422 financial institutions and locked up people's monies. Today, people say cannot get their monies back. Mr. Speaker, you impacted us negatively when you moved 850,000 Ghanaians into low and to poverty. The Living Standard Survey shows that 850,000 Ghanaians have now that today our finance minister and the president, when they travel out, they are not going for economic diplomacy. They are going to beg our bilateral creditors, please, we can't pay.
He's not here.
Please, we can't pay. That's why he's not here. He's roaming in Germany now. And yet, it's getting bad. Unfortunately, they say they want to break the 8. These are Konongo Kaya people. Mr. Speaker, to wit.
For your immense support throughout the implementation of the 2023 budget. And this has helped to make sure this journey that we find ourselves on, we will complete. Mr. Speaker, in our mid-year budget review, when we boldly declared that we had turned the corner and announced that we were witnessing some positive macroeconomic variables, our counterparts on the other side dismissed it as mere rhetorics. However, the tangible results are here for all to see. Let me take us through. Mr. Speaker, inflation, they have projected an inflation rate of 42.2% for us. But here we are in October. And we have done so well that we put in place in 2023 are working. And so we are making progress. But Mr. Speaker, globally, for a country like Ghana, the other side do, our brothers and our sisters on the other side do. Their program was derailed because of election spending. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the 2020 we were able to go through it successfully. And as a result of that, we are very hopeful that the next tranche of $600 million will come in to support our balance of payments. Mr. Speaker, yes, indeed, 2024 is an election year. To also help us. So overall, Mr. Speaker, the budget policy presentment of existing commitments without allowing elections to derail what we have. And we believe that, Mr. Speaker, it is our hope that this policy statement will be approved for government to implement all that it has to implement to allow our economy to grow by 2.8% of GDP, bring inflation down to 15%, build a gross international reserve of at least 3.5 months of import cover, and raise the needed revenue.
Honourable members, we now listen to
The mean, which is the average. The average is 5.4. I've then broken it down. If the majority leader wants one, this is another copy. From 2009 to 2016, 8 years of NDC, the average growth rate in terms of real growth, not nominal growth, was 6.475%. So it means that over the 8-year period, on average, we're growing the Ghanaian economy by 6.475%. There is 3,200. Crude oil was 54 during our time. Today it is $84 per barrel. Mr. Speaker, and yet, look at their outcome. Mr. Speaker, there's a popular saying that unto whom much is given, much is expected. Mr. Speaker, table 6. This is the budget. This is not my statement. Page 19. ECOWAS rationalized converging criteria. Budget deficit, we failed to achieve it. Inflation, we failed to achieve it. Gross external reserve, we failed to achieve it. Nominal exchange rate, we failed to achieve it. Public debt to GDP, we failed to achieve it. This is their record. If you want to look at an economy, it's not based on the nominal growth rate. Because inflation alone can just grow your economy. With the same goods and services, inflation can make it more expensive. Because when you value the final goods of goods and services, you might get a huge figure. So you look at where you call growth poles. That is how you measure an economy. So one, you look at the industrial sector. Mr. Speaker, paragraph 108. The industrial sector contracted. That is not growing. Negative 2.2%. The manufacturing sector contracted negative 1.1%. Import cover to 2.7 of import cover. Mr. Speaker, certainly, Mr. Speaker, this cannot be a good story at all. Mr. Speaker, you cannot, and that is a fact, and I do recall that when President Akufo-Addo was campaigning, he said, when my government comes and we don't perform, how can you superintend over an economy that has been declared as bankrupt in this same budget? The minister himself says that having triggered the non-payment for our Eurobond and other external debt, Ghana technically declared itself bankrupt. It's in the budget. How can you have the worst currency in Africa and still expect that we should vote for you? How can you collapse your own NAPCO, your own flagship program, Mr. Speaker, the Vice President, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, promised the people of the Zongos that he cares for them and he cares about them. Wow. And that he will come with the Zongo Development Fund. Them have price at the ports and yet they are struggling. I have a message for the NAPCO employee who is sitting in the house and doing nothing. I have a message for you ordinary Ghanaians. the suffering masses of the ordinary Ghanaians, that in the coming year, in 2025, the 24-hour economy is coming to Ghana. The nation builder, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, is coming back to power. Mr. Speaker,
Honorable members, it's now the turn of Honorable Dr. Stephen.
That my own brother, I respect most, Honorable John Jinoko, trying to say that they care for and about teachers. A social democratic fraternity that cancelled the allowance of the poor teacher says that he cares about them. It is very interesting. Is it that they are toying with the? Is it that they are joking with Ghanaians? Functional life was 3 years. If they care to know, how many years has it been in existence? So it's not about lies and deception. Mr. Speaker, I want to go straight. Anywhere in the world today, budget statements focus principally on the fiscal space. Fiscal space because 2022 that we saw post-COVID impact. We are a giant economy. The world grew negative 3.3, we grew 0.2 best. In spite of all these situations, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask them, how do we manage our fiscal space? They should go and read the PFM Act 2016 Act fiscal framework. So we as a government, that is what 2017, taxes we reduced or we took away amounted to about 17, including even condom and carrier tax. They introduced. Surprisingly, they say they are social democrat. Not one single pro-poor policy of national tenacity and character that they've been able to implement. Pro-poor policy, the most essential economic services in any country, education and health. They are the people who love the poor, but they took away the allowances that the poor child could benefit from. NDC cannot poor child could benefit from. NDC cannot manage even a district economy. But for propaganda, they cannot. They don't have what it takes. What is their policy direction? Only to lie to Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, this is what I have. Do you know where they can be trusted? And this is all budget statement 2014, 15, 16. Mr. Speaker, 2012, their own budget, GDP growth 9.3. The same 2020, the same budget. In fact, 2015 budget and the NDC GDP growth was 8.8. The same 2012 is
rebased, and the numbers he's churning out are the ones that were not rebased before. The Speaker, the GDP changed before rebase and after rebase. And so I want him and I challenge him to bring us these two numbers, before rebase and after rebase. And you will realize that the official document, the budget statement that was presented to this House in 2013 and 2014 made reference to the rebase numbers. His numbers are not the rebase numbers. And so he cannot say the NDC is providing two different economic numbers. So Speaker, this is a grave matter. It's a very important matter that I cannot allow this to go. Because, Mr. Speaker, the fact remains that the GDP then were rebased, and the numbers he's giving out are the non-rebased numbers, for the record. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, yes, I want to listen to him. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, it is extremely interesting that my learned brother, that I'm in the same academic jurisdiction with, it doesn't matter. Mr. Speaker, I thought he was capital. I am telling them today that where Ghana is going under His Excellency Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, even other countries on the continent of Africa are calling us. Mr. Speaker, they keep on making these fundamental mistakes. One, all the Francophone countries do not have economic sovereignty. They should know that, and I want to correct them. Economic sovereignty. They should know that, and I want to correct them. Their economic